G'day, guys. What the fuck am I thinking? G'day, ingrates, and welcome to today's Pain Party. I am your host, Ricky T, otherwise known as Protossjr, and today we're going to look at what's up next for the Liberals. Who's going to lead them? Now that's the question. There's quite a few different people who could actually be leading the Liberals. At the moment, there's about 5. I've covered about 4. The reason why it's taken me a week or so to get this video up is because I really wanted to just let the dust settle. It's fairly rare that you see a Liberal government a Liberal Party just capitulate, just like Arsenal's title hopes at the end of every season. And I wanted just to let it stew for a bit, let people have their cry, let the Greens have their cry, let everyone celebrate the fact that Adam Brandt is no longer in Parliament. I wanted to just give everyone a chance just to breathe. But now it's time that we take a moment and we think about who's going to lead the Liberals going next. Now, I'm very fucking bad at remembering anything. So I have absolutely just gone and printed off this whole thing that I'd written out with some key points of the people that we're looking at, right? So if we get off to this, if we start off straight away, right, the first person we want to have a look at is Dan Tehan, if that's how you say his name, who first entered the government back in 2010 during the Rudd Gillard government. He served as a Minister of Defence in 2016, Defence Personnel 2016 to 17, Veterans Affairs from 2016 to 2017, Social Services from 17 to 18, Education from 18 to 20, and Trade, Tourism and Investment Minister in 2020 to 2022. He's basically the Harry Kim of politics, is what I'm seeing here. He's a master at absolutely nothing, but he keeps getting put into the most extreme positions. Just if that makes any sense to you. For me, I look at that kind of resume and think, well, what is he actually good at? Why did they move him around so much? Was he that bad in one role that they kept moving him? Or is that just a case of he's that good, so they saw him going to different things? Now, I don't know about you, but I think going from being the Defence Personnel Minister and Veterans Affairs to Trade, Tourism and Investment Minister is somewhat of a, how do I put it, demotion? Anyway, if we look over his vocal record, right, we get a little bit more of an idea as to who this guy is, okay? Now, back in 2010, there was a bill put up to the House, which was to restrict political donations. This is back in 2010. He actually said no to it. He voted against. He was absent for it in 2024 when it was brought up one more time. In 23, he was noticeably absent from a vote on environmental protection in regards to sea dumping using new technologies and fight climate change. He was absent for that. However, in March of 2023, he voted yes for offshore petroleum and greenhouse gas storage. Okay. So the one blemish that I can see with him is the fact that he voted against the NDIS second reading for a royal commission into violence and abuse against people with a disability. So what that leads me to think is that if we look at his key takeaways, right? He loves political donations. He doesn't show up for environmental issues. And he really doesn't care about those who are vulnerable. Sounds like a fairly standard Liberal minister to me. Now, we get the opportunity to look at Mr. Angus Taylor, possibly the biggest joke of them all. Angus Taylor started off his political career as a staffer for Barry O'Farrell. Now, for those of you who are not in New South Wales, Barry O'Farrell was a Liberal leader in the state parliament. Okay? Now, I know the whole 4 people that are going to see this video are going to know who that is anyway, but I'm going to throw it in there regardless. All right, now, the person before him announced that in April 2012, he would not be recontesting the seat of Hume at the 2013 federal election. And Taylor sought and gained the Liberal endorsement for the seat of Hume. He won 26 out of 33 votes. One of the candidates he defeated was Rick Mandelson. later appeared to endorse Taylor, saying, "More common sense is needed in the parliament along with someone who actually does some things. Not just academics, lawyers, and a union rep." Now, if you really think about that, that's actually a really funny quote, considering that Angus Taylor, his wife, who ran his campaign, is in fact, and don't tell anyone, she's an academic lawyer. But don't tell anyone. It's so fucking dumb. All right, so some of his most notable voting records, and I really think that these are an important thing to look at because they give you a really good idea as to who they are, what they stand for, and what you can honestly expect from them going forward. Okay, so if we look at Angus's track record, back in 2016, he voted yes twice to the marriage plebiscite. You know, which not necessarily the worst thing in my own opinion. In 2017, he supported the bill to abolish public holiday and weekend penalty rates. In this particular case, because I'm going to throw a graphic up on the screen, the entry of no is actually a yes to abolish. So it was, are you in favor of having those rights? And he said no. And finally, in 2025, he voted against Mark Dreyfus from speaking on matters including anti-Semitism. And that vote was defeated by the House of Representatives. So effectively what happened is Mark Dreyfus stood up in front of Parliament and was talking about the rise of anti-Semitism within Australia. And Angus Taylor and a couple of other of the Liberals stood up and tried to hush him, push him down and stop him from speaking. You know, the one thing that we elect people in government to do is to speak. And Angus was trying to silence that. Which is kind of funny because he is, quote by quote, a free speech advocate. Yeah. Anyway. The next up, we have Susan Ley. Susan, the longest running of the four candidates, having entered Parliament back in 2001 on the back of Howard's victory. Following the 2007 election, Ley was appointed Shadow Minister for Housing and Shadow Minister for Status of Women by opposition leader. Moving to the Shadow Minister for Customers and Justice when Malcolm Turnbull took opposition back in 2008. When Tony Abbott became opposition leader, she was given the Shadow Assistant Treasurer and was moved to Shadow Ministry for Employment, Participation and Shadow Minister for Childcare and Early Childhood Learning in 2010. Now, she's basically been used all over government. She's been used every single little spot. She's probably, how would you put it? Let's just say, if you got a blank piece of wood and got one of those like hot irons and started carving into the wood to make patterns, that's Susan Ley. There's really not much happening there. Now, if we look at her voting records, again, I think this is really important because we need to know what they actually stand for. Right? She voted a no on the criminalization of wage theft in 2023. Now, effectively what that meant is that your boss, let's say that you were not a salary worker, you were paid by the hour, so you were on wages. And your boss said to you, you're going to stay back 2 hours later today, but I'm not paying you for it. That is wage theft. And that is something that Susan Ley said, I like. That's fantastic. She fucking loved it, which is dumb. Anyway, she voted no to that. In 2012, she voted in favour for compensation for victims of overseas terrorist attacks. 2023, she voted yes on constitutional alteration for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voices, which was the very divisive referendum that we had back in 2023. So as you go back in history, you're going to find that pretty much all of the House said yes, we're okay with this. Right? They followed through the recommenders that were offered to them through government, and they all said, yeah, okay, let's put this to the people and let the people decide. Now, as every referendum has ever gone in this country, it was a failure. It was a downright failure. And, you know, that's just life. That's how things work out. Now, some key takeaways for Susan Lee. She loves wage theft, though she did want to give financial compensation to victims of terrorist attacks, and she did support Indigenous voices. So I can't necessarily say that I hate those particular things. The wage theft thing I cannot stand. If you're someone who steals wages, I don't want to know you. You're a piece of shit. Right? Just straight up. If you want to take away penalty rates, you're a piece of shit. I don't know what to say. It's just reality of it. Then we can have a look at the damp sock that is Michaela Cash. Now, for those of you who are unaware who Michaela Cash is, I'm going to put a picture up. She has to be the... When you're in high school and you imagine the kids from the hoity-toity private schools, you know, the ones that talk out the side of their mouth as they talk to you and they absolutely have nothing else to say. That is Michaela Cash. She has about as much personality as this... Actually, the painting behind me has far more personality than Michaela Cash. Now, she entered into Parliament back in 2007. She was elected. She contested the election as the number 3 candidate for the Liberal Senate ticket in Western Australia. Since joining federal Parliament, Cash has served on numerous state committees and held a role as temporary chair of committees from February to September in 2010. In October 2017, the Australian Workers' Union offices were raided by the AFP, and the media were tipped off prior to the event. Cash advised the Senate estimates that a staffer of hers found out about the raid from a, quote, media source, and then spread the word to more journalists. Having previously denied to an estimates hearing on the previous day that her office had any involvement, the staffer in question resigned. Cash was ordered to turn over documents in her department relating to the raid. Cash's legal fees for her response to a federal court subpoena were paid for through the taxpayer. So effectively, she let her staff, aka her, and this is hearsay, nothing's proven, but it's hearsay. So let's just say that she alerted the entire department that the AFP were going to come in and steal and go through all their information. And then we, as taxpayers, paid for her defense. Us. Okay. Anyway, in 2017, going over her voting records, in 2017 she voted to abolish penalty rates. So she's another one of those people that fucking hates the standard worker. Hates us. Everyone who works on a Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, she doesn't want to know us. She doesn't want to know the people that work all night and need the penalty rates to survive. She doesn't want to compensate the people who work on Christmas Day. No, she doesn't. She doesn't want to do that at all. Because she's a piece of shit. Absolute piece of shit. Now, if we look at her next voting record, she, in 2021, voted against decreasing the subsidies given to fossil fuel companies. So, she wanted to keep them afloat. So Gina Rinehart was like, I need more money. My pile of money is not big enough. So, she said, let's give them more. So apparently in this case, you can have your cake and eat it too. And in 2009, so we're going back a little bit, she voted against a bill to restrict donations made to political parties. This is kind of an important thing. What we've seen from her is nothing but detestable behavior for the common individual. Which I find kind of pretty fucking gross, to be honest with you. The idea that someone like that, and these are the key takeaways, props up the fossil fuel industry, hates penalty rates, and loves political donations. They're the 3 points that I'd actually put down. Now, in the case of the Liberals, I just cracked my toe. We can ignore that. In the case of the Liberals, it is truly a scary prospect when all 4 of their top options are so incredibly anti-worker and pro-conglomerate. I foresee that if Labour do not mess up over this next 3 years, we're going to see them stay in power for the next 2 election cycles. At the moment, there's not a single person that I believe is within the ranks of the Liberal Party that's going to get them out of the doldrums. They've currently lost more seats in this election than they have in the last 5, which is pretty wild. Labor, on the other hand, have hit the largest majority they've ever had since the Hawke government. So if we have a look at where Liberals are going to go from here, well, they really only have 2 options. They bring in Jacinta Price, who, as of today, and I've been like guessing that this was coming anyway, but as of today, she has stepped down from the Nationals leader and has joined the Liberal Party, meaning, and I'm throwing it out there, she is going to push for Liberal leadership. Now, good on her. Let her do that. But the country had better not forget that she is the one who pushed all of the pro-Trump rhetoric through this election cycle. It was her. She's the one who got up in front of a group of people and said, "Make Australia great again." She's the one who posed in the Trump hat and did all that kind of bullshit. So this isn't going to be like the longest deep dive video that I'm ever going to do. In fact, my next video is going to be a lot more research because I'm going to look through Labor's policies, what to expect, what I like, what I don't like, etc., etc. But for the moment, I think this is a really pressing topic. If the Liberals have capitulated so badly, and the Greens have almost fallen apart completely, and I've got to say, the Greens did it to themselves. I'm just going to throw it out there. The Greens did it to themselves. I'm not a fan of the Greens. As far as I'm concerned, they're liberal light. They're pot-smoking liberal light. That's the Greens, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, guys, that is my video for today. It's been a little while since I posted one. I'm going to try to do these a little bit more regularly. The election cycle is over. I have been active on my TikTok. I'm posting a video once a day. Sometimes once every 3 days. You know, like I try to stay a little bit active on there. Anyway, if this video was informative to you in any shape, way or form, or it made you giggle or laugh or just think that I'm a fuckwit, give me a like or flag me. I don't care. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your attention. Take care. Peace out.